Welcome, everybody, back to another brand new episode of Let's Talk Broncos. I'm Brie Meestis here with Zach Seegers, Joey Richards. Guys, how are you?
Doing really good. Busy, very busy, very busy this time of year with all the holidays and everything like that. But Broncos, a ton of news. I'm excited to dig into it with everybody. I mean, like yesterday was disastrous with the Broncos game. Was able to spend some time with some family though. Everyone was kind of losing their mind on the TV, so it wasn't just me. I felt included, like there were more people around me, which made me feel good. But Zach, how are you feeling, man?
Little rejuvenated. Nice to get that holiday weekend in. We're here at the end of the stretch, and I feel like, I don't know, a little mixed bag. The game really sucked, but I think as a result of it, the Broncos might have dodged a bullet. So I'm not as down as one might expect.
Are you saying you were hoping for the downfall that happened on Sunday there, Zach Seegers?
I think a little bit, I think I don't know. You wound up being a little late for your train, but the train ended up derailing and everyone on board ended up dying in a horrific accident. So it's kind of good you were late for your train.
Oh my God.
That's what it would have been if they brought back Hackett for another season. So kind of good. You had that loud national embarrassment because now everyone's on notice. And you know what? Everyone should be on notice because this Broncos season is maybe the worst, definitely the most disappointing in franchise history. And changes need to be made.
1,000%.
Breaking news today, Nathaniel Hackett has been let go by the Denver Broncos. First coach to do it since Urban Meyer. And Zach, what was that statistic that you gave me earlier, being only the second one since the 70s? I don't want to misrepresent
1978, Peter McCauley or something like that. I'm not especially familiar with the guy. But yeah, it's crazy that you go all the way back to 1978, and the only other one who's been fired is Urban Meyer, who had 5 exposés come out about him during his coaching tenure, and Hackett didn't get a single one. It was just poorly run, and I'm not denying that he deserved to be fired or anything, but nowhere near on the Urban Meyer scale of not knowing who Aaron Donald was and kicking his players and not flying back with the team and getting a lap dance instead. It wasn't even near that level of oh my God, this guy shouldn't be allowed to finish out the season. So it's definitely a unique firing and a situation deserving of, I think, some unique repercussion.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joey.
I was just gonna say, yeah. Everything that would, when you really sit back afterwards and think about it, there was things leading up to this, right? First, it was the clock management coach who is now, and we'll get into it later, the head coach of the Denver Broncos, the intern. But you took that duty away from him, and then you took play calling duties away from him, and then players start fighting on the sidelines. There was a lead up to this. There was a lead up to this firing, and it doesn't go under the radar for me, especially I don't care if the Broncos told me that, hey, this guy gave up his play calling duties. I don't buy it for a second, especially afterwards. I mean, that being that the Broncos did put this clock management coach in place, it would tell you that this wasn't a Hackett guy. It wasn't a Hackett guy. This was brought in externally, not Nathaniel Hackett. And it was time. I really think it was time, especially after this last game. It was time. You can't just have all this negative energy and bad coaching, because I really do think that you can put a lot of this on bad coaching. This was not good coaching, guys. This wasn't. I was skeptical from his style from the beginning, but I thought he would be a better offensive guy. I think a lot of that can be thrown on to Russell Wilson, but I think his style kind of led to a lot of this as well, truthfully.
I like how you put that, Joey, though, because a lot of it was on the coaching, but not all of it. And I want to get into that as well. I think there's a lot to talk about here.
I think it's a poorly coached team, and I guess a lot of it's on coaching. But I don't know how much better this team looks next year. Like if you just get the Broncos are not going to be the most appealing job out there. They might be one of the least appealing jobs out there, if not the least appealing job. And if they offer their job to someone who gets multiple offers, there's a good chance, unless the Walton Penner group just back up the Brinks truck, there's a really good chance that the Broncos are going to lose out on that candidate. And with that in mind, if you were to keep everything else the same and just swap out the coaching staff, I don't know how much this Broncos team improves. I think the coaching staff was really bad. I think they're a big problem, but the problems are so great in number and just all over this offense that, like, I don't know, let's say you do bring in Dan Quinn and Brian Schottenheimer, which to me is like a very meh coaching staff. I think they'd be fine. They'd be adults in the room, but they don't wow me. They go from being a 4-13 team to like a 6-11 team, a 7-10 team. I don't know how many wins coaching cost them, I guess is what I'm getting at here. I think this team is really problematic.
No, we were talking about it this morning. I don't think that the wins improve next season. I don't think that you're miraculously winning 5-6 more games just by switching your coaching staff. And that's another discussion for, I think, the rest of the offseason. We'll be talking about that. The coaching, however, was a little left to be desired. Wayne King said, glad this happened. He lost the team. We saw that for real yesterday. Team lacked serious discipline for players on the field as well as on the sideline. The entire offensive side coaches all need to go. Well put, Wayne. Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, I do think coaching, there's not a coach in any sport more important than an NFL football coach. I really think that. And I think Nathaniel Hackett was really that bad. Like, and I hate to say it, I don't know him personally. I just I don't think he was good. I don't think the coaches he put in place were good. I don't think any of that. I mean, I don't know how many times I've come on here. I don't even know what our offensive coordinator is doing. I don't know what he does. I don't know Butch Berry. Every single little thing I've heard about Butch Berry is bad. I do think that it could equate to a better team. I think a lot of it was on Russ, but I do think the Broncos could maybe, and it depends who you put in place, right? Because you would have to then upgrade from Hackett, not a little bit, but substantially. I don't think that honestly is that crazy of a thing, because I don't think Hackett was very good at all. But I do think that
I agree. But if you put an average head coach, like whatever average head coach is, just pure replacement level NFL head coach, you plug that in from Nathaniel Hackett, and everything else goes the same this year. Injuries, all of it's the same. Now, obviously, you're banking on the coaching staff, maybe getting some more out of some players across the roster and everything. But I mean, in terms of injuries and like the other variables, that stuff goes the same way. How many more games is this team winning with an average coaching staff? I think with a great coaching staff, maybe it's different, but I don't know how many great coaching staffs there are out there. And I don't feel especially confident that the Broncos are going to be able to land one with the state of the franchise looking how it looks right now. I think there's plenty of room for improvement because, again, Hackett was one of the worst coaching hires of all time. There's lots of room for improvement, but I think the Broncos are down so horrendously bad right now. I don't know how much Dan Quinn is coming in and fixing things. It's got to be like they need a whole overhaul, is what I'm saying. Like Dan Quinn coming in will be nice, but I don't know how much better that'll make them. I think you need Dan Quinn. You need to overhaul the offensive talent. You need to overhaul the quarterback situation. And then you're probably still a year or two out away from, I think, taking a substantial leap in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I totally agree. I think everything needs a rehaul. I think this was a great first step. Honestly, I just think that's what this situation is. Like, this is like, let's say the Broncos change scheme. Quinn Miners doesn't lose weight. They still have Mike Munchak at O-line coach. Like there's a lot of different things in this that could make a factor. I think going from Mike Munchak to Butch Berry was one of the worst things the Broncos could have done, and they did it. Like a lot of these mistakes could be put on to coaching. I think that this is a great first step, and to have an eventual competent roster, you are going to have to upgrade from Nathaniel Hackett. That's kind of what I just think.
So you're wetting the bandage a little bit before you rip it entirely off, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, I think so.
You better rip it off.
Zach, we'll let you speak on that here just in a moment. But what I wanted to touch on was for about an hour, there was an idea that there was no interim head coach in place. However, we were told, I think live on the Fan Cave earlier today, Zach and I were live at about 1:15. The Denver Broncos released, or it was released, that the new interim head coach would be Jerry Rosburg. Obviously, Rosburg was brought in as an assistant to Nathaniel Hackett to handle game and time management issues that were flogging the team. It seemed to work for a little bit, but I'm not entirely sure what Rosburg had been doing up until this point. It's been a weird season where you're almost trying to ascertain what certain individuals are doing. However, I was interested in this decision entirely, and it's starting to work itself out why Evero maybe didn't take that position. I do think it frees up some hands, though, so they're able to continue the roles that they were assigned to. I'm going to start with Joey. Joey, how did you feel about the naming of Rosburg as interim head coach?
I guess I had no idea who they were going to put at interim head coach. Obviously, I think, obviously, it's also important to note that they did offer Evero this, and Evero turned it down. He said no. And then so Rosburg, it sounds like, was their second option there as the intern head coach. And I mean, it's hard to really have a take on this. It's like 2 games, and then like what do I really care all that much who the intern head coach is in these 2 games? Not really. I'll be honest. If I have any Rosburg evaluation, it's just like that. It's a guy that's easy to get in there, and then you don't have to worry about any drama. Like you could replace him easily. There's not crazy ties there, anything like that. Obviously, he was a clock management guy that was brought to us as, hey, Hackett brought him in to help him. Clearly now, after looking at him now be the intern head coach, that wasn't the case. The Broncos put him in to help Hackett, not vice versa. I think that's pretty clear. I don't know. There's just not a lot I can say here. The Broncos have an intern head coach, and they made it where he will be an intern. I don't think that this is any guy that you're going to have to be worrying about. I don't know. We performed good in 2 games. It's not at all. He will be replaced as head coach for the Broncos.
Yeah, he was retired as a head coach before the Broncos brought him in, and he was retired for like 4 seasons. This is definitely a Band-Aid. I think the one pushback could be, maybe Evero is the ideal candidate. If you are seriously considering Evero as a head coaching candidate, I think he would be the ideal choice, because then you get like a quick little test run. You get to see how he runs the room and everything. And they offered that, and Evero wasn't down. Says something about the state of the Broncos that he thought taking over as head coach of this operation would hurt his chances of getting a better job this offseason. Some of it also might have been his friendship with Hackett, though, to be fair. But yeah, the Evero thing is interesting to me. Rosburg, though, I think is a choice that makes sense. He was an assistant head coach under John Harbaugh, who's great, for 11 years. In terms of coordinator experience, I think he also has the most on the staff by a comfortable margin, outside of maybe Dom Capers. And he has the benefit of not being a Hackett guy. I don't think they wanted to turn to a Hackett guy. Joey's sentiment that like it's the last 2 games of the season, this is a very temporary interim, doesn't really matter who they hire, I think is frankly dead on. I don't think it matters. That said, I think this is about as good a job as they could do. It was a name that didn't occur to me, but he's a very experienced guy who I think can just be a CEO for 2 weeks, just kind of oversee what's going on. And it'll allow Evero to stay focused on defense. It'll allow Kubiak to stay focused on the offense. Stoops to stay focused on special teams, and all the position coaches below those guys to stay focused on their positions. Obviously, we don't have faith in a lot of those figures running their positions or running their position groups or their sides of the ball. But you're not overhauling, coordinators and position coaches at this point in the season. So I think just to like shepherd this into this like ghost ship for the final 2 weeks of the season, the Broncos would have been hard pressed to come up with a better option other than Rosberg.
What implications for Evero either being, offered a head coaching position for the Broncos or staying as the defensive coordinator? Do any of the implications of him, other than not having to deal with the shit show that the Broncos are right now? I forgot that I wasn't on radio so that I could say that. But are there any implications outside of that for him not taking that job? I guess I'm confused. Was it just a bad look if he did?
There's the friendship with Hackett. I think that was probably part of the consideration. I think that's mainly it. I don't think he's sticking around so the Broncos can keep him as their DC. And the Broncos did offer him the role of interim head coach, which would have messed with their ability to retain him as defensive coordinator. Saw Wayne King commenting something about that, so just wanted to respond to that quick. But yeah, I just don't. I guess they're going to consider Evero as head coach. To me, that's what offering him the interim job says, because you lose the ability to carry over that defensive coordinator contract by making him interim. And that's a fairly substantial loss for that 2-game audition. So I think they will seriously consider it. If I had to bet, I'd say he ultimately doesn't get it. And if I had to bet, I'd say he ultimately doesn't get a head coaching job this cycle. I think if whoever the Broncos hired to be their head coach and the Walton Penner group are down for it, I think there's a very good chance Evero is the defensive coordinator next season.
I wonder if him turning down. Yeah. I think most of it really just had to do with hurting his chances at a head coach. That's what I think most of this had to do. I think he's already looking at kind of an outside shot there a little bit. I think he deserves plenty of interviews. Evero's been phenomenal this entire year. From every account, you hear defensive players rave about Evero. And it's matches. That's been the difference between Hackett and Evero, is they talk about him like he's a player's coach, and then we also get production on the field. He's not just a nice guy. So I think that's kind of just the reason why. That's my take there.
Thanks, Joey, for that. I want to grab this comment real quick from Kevin Tompkins. Hi, Kev. Everything Broncos from here on out or in needs to revolve around the center of the universe. That, of course, being our Lord and Savior, Greg Dulcich. Thank you for your comment, Kevin. I know I can always count on you. I also agree. He needs to be a keystone of this Denver Broncos offense moving forward. I do want to, of course, that leads me into my next point. We watched the Broncos get absolutely annihilated and embarrassed by Baker Mayfield and the Rams on Sunday for Christmas Eve. And we need to talk about that Russ performance. I know everybody is dying to do so. Russell Wilson melts down, indeed, like a silver ore ingot being just melted down into nothingness. And it was frustrating to watch. 3 interceptions. Zach, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Yeah, it's man, it's bad. It's really bad. I think Christmas was a beautiful demonstration, and I think it was as painful it was, it might have been some necessary medicine taking for Broncos country, because you saw the bad Russell Wilson on full display, and I think it was a good, like some smelling salts after that Chiefs performance, because I think he kind of caught fire, and it was really fluky if you go back and watch the game, with like the 66-yard screen and Jerry Jeudy being like open for 3 seconds in the end zone, and just like stuff that's not super replicable. And the weird Dulcich tip up pass into the air. And I feel like people were getting a little too high on that performance, and this brought everyone back down to earth with, I don't know, an about-face display. Every interception was just like, how do you blame that on Hackett? How do you blame that on these receivers? How do you blame that on the offensive line? Like every single one, it's like you have a wide open guy. The play's drawn up well. It's a successful play, and the quarterback just cannot execute it. Like throwing it into triple coverage 3 yards over your receiver's head isn't a head coach problem, especially when the quarterback in question has started 160 games in his career. Like that's not a Cortland Sutton problem. That's a Russell Wilson problem. Not using Dulcich's natural leverage when Bobby Wagner's in man coverage on him. Like throw it away from the guy in man coverage on him. Nope, just lay up, easy interception for Bobby Wagner. That's not on Hackett. That's not on Kubiak. That's not on Greg Dulcich. That's not on the offensive line. That's on Russell Wilson. And I think it was a valuable exposure for Broncos country because these are things that are going to be serious problems, I believe, even when you make these changes around Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is a substantial problem with the Denver Broncos, as I've been saying on the show for weeks, as you guys were saying on the show long before me. And also, as I was happy to get some recognition for today, the Broncos can move on from Russell Wilson. It is totally doable. It is totally viable. If you don't think they should, that's fine. We'll disagree on that evaluation, but you should know whether or not they move on from Russell Wilson this offseason is a choice, and you should hold them accountable if they make the wrong one, and you should praise them if they make the right one.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Zach. I mean, it was co-signed by Greg Rosenthal today, which was awesome to see. Shout out to you. A lot of people doubted that. It felt like people were just turning down what you were saying, the possibility of it left and right with no reason as to why they couldn't. So it was nice to see a bigger name come out and then also say like, yes, this could happen. I was glad to see that, and you're 1,000% right. It is possible. You will, like you said, Zach, have varying opinions on whether that should happen, but it 1,000% is a possibility. It's something the Broncos could do, and it's something the fans should know they could do. It feels like it's a conversation that hasn't yet been had in Broncos country, just because the overall sentiment around it has been that it's not a possibility. That's kind of been the vibe this entire season. So Broncos country, you need to know that yes, they can. They can. Would it be painful the first year? 1,000%. Very painful. But, I saw a comment on here. I don't remember who exactly it was, but they were like, I wish the Broncos would commit to one rebuilding season. It's kind of true. Like the Broncos constantly, it feels like, are always trying to compete, even when they're not even close to. And it kind of is just driving them into a hole. I'm ready for the Broncos to finally, not just start a second round rookie or play a second round quarterback. It would be really, really nice one day if they could draft the first quarterback off the board and have their guy. That would be a cool thing. Nice idea. It feels like a lot of the teams that are doing well have developed their quarterback, and it's been an early pick. Those are two things that have been pretty consistent there. Yeah.
I'm so happy you said all of that, Joey, because it's been driving me crazy. One of the big responses I've had on this, you've got to start the rebuild now, get rid of Russ, because that's kind of the philosophy. It is an aggressive rebuild philosophy. And one thing I've had is that's unfair to the fan base that has already had to wait 7 years to hear, well, it's just going to be a couple more years. And I understand that's frustrating, but I also think it's the reality of the situation. The reason this fan base has been waiting for 7 years is because the Broncos continue to cling to something that isn't there. Whether it be the 2015 defense that wasn't there in 2016 and 2017 and 2018, but they pretended like it was. Whether it was Paxton Lynch being the quarterback of the future, or Brock Osweiler being the quarterback of the future, or Drew Lock being the quarterback of the future, or Joe Flacco still being in his prime. What has sunk this team has not been rebuilds. It has been clinging to something they have not been and misevaluating where they are. They have not committed to a true rebuild since well before 2015. You probably maybe go 2011-ish, like the McDaniels teardown. And the McDaniels teardown was really painful and hated at the time. It set the Broncos up for future success. Crazy as that is. The one other thing I want to hit on, I've had another response. Oh, draft a quarterback. Well, that hasn't worked out well for the Broncos in the past. Yeah, because they're going to the quarterback graveyard and trying to go for it. They're going to the late first round, early second round. And yes, there are the Dak Prescotts and the Russell Wilsons of the world, but that's not where you find great quarterbacks. You find great quarterbacks in the top 10 picks of the draft. That's where Mahomes went. That's where Herbert went. That's where Burrow went. That's where Allen went. That's where all the ones you want went for the most part, outside of like a few extreme outliers.
Yeah.
The Broncos have never in franchise history, they're one of very few teams where this is true, never in franchise history drafted a quarterback in the top 10. The only top 10 quarterback they've ever acquired is John Elway, face of the franchise. Best thing the franchise has ever done was acquire John Elway. Try that again. You've never done it since. Worked out pretty well. We all think about what could have been with Josh Allen, what could have been with Justin Fields. Those were top 10 picks they didn't spend on quarterback. Let's try that strategy.
Well, now we can't because we don't have the picks in order to do so. And what's most frustrating is that since that time, we've been dealing with the opportunity that they keep setting the worst records in the NFL. And unless something changes, we're going to continue to see this in perpetual fashion, that we're living in this insanity world of repeating the same thing over and over again, hoping that it turns out differently. It is not. So now there's a time to buy into something and do something that maybe doesn't look that comfortable and change things so that this can get in a different direction. Otherwise, you're trying to like recompose and reconfigure and raise the dead, so to speak. And it's not working out. And I think all of Broncos country is basically to the point that they can't stomach it any longer. I know I can't. I think I'm at the point where I just don't know what to say to this. But Zach, you've been putting it right, and so eloquently so, over on Twitter. If you'd like to follow more of Zach Seeger's coverage over there, please go and follow him, Zach_Seegers. There's a lot of comments coming through. Continue to interact with the show. We are live. I don't have the banner running because it's distracting as we try to work through this, but there's a lot more to cover. Did you guys have any other thoughts about Russell Wilson before we move on?
No, I think I'm good. I think we talk about Russell Wilson every week, and every week it's the same thing. Damn near it's the exact same thing here at Let's Talk Broncos, and it's been since we probably all came to agreement on him around week 5. It's been exactly around the same thing about how it just has not been good enough. So yeah, I mean, I have nothing else to add there on him. I guess my only thing I want to add is that, hey guys, for next season, we really have to evaluate if this guy's fixable or not. It's not just keep him and try to fix him. I would like to see the Broncos, even if they do keep him, look past him a little bit, make him prove that he's the guy that you want to build around. Not just, oh, well, he's here, we have to try. No, I don't think that's the case. You can still try to build for the future.
Yeah, I fully agree. I'm curious, is this, in your two opinions, is this the Russell Wilson low point? Because I think the Colts game is up there. What is the worst Russell Wilson moment of this season? Where was the low point? Was it this week?
Gentlemen, I am biased, and you know that. I've been saying since the trade happened in March that I was unhappy with it. So the minute he didn't look like even a serviceable quarterback, I was out of this. However, Colts game, terrible. Absolutely atrocious. This past game just basically could not have gotten any worse. I don't know how it could have gotten worse. He was sacked 6 times, 3 interceptions, blatant decision-making issues, and I just couldn't stomach it anymore. What I'm sick and tired of is blaming it all on the offensive line. It's not entirely their fault. If you're holding on the ball for that long, this is what you're going to get. It is not as though he can't make the decisions to do a quick release. It's not on the offensive line to block him for 6.5 seconds while he figures out what he's going to do with the ball or decide to roll out for some uncanny reason.
Yeah.
I just have a stat to back up what Bree's saying right now. Russell Wilson is 10th in the NFL in quarterback created pressure rate and 8th overall in quarterback created pressures in terms of just the total count. So holding the ball too long. Offensive line's a problem too. It's like the Hackett-Russ conversation. Yes, Hackett's a problem. So is Russ. Yes, the offensive line is a problem. So is Russ.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And, a lot of people will say that sacks is a quarterback stat, and guys, you can go and look through this. through Russell Wilson's career, he's always been a quarterback that's taken a lot of sacks. This isn't unique to this one year. The thing that we're seeing that is unique to this year is that I can tell Zach really has something to say. The thing that is unique to this year is that we're not seeing the beautiful magic Russ, the one that would escape, and it made those sacks that he took worth it. That's what we have been missing. You haven't really, I mean, I literally remember watching Russell Wilson saying to myself, this guy is a magician back there. He's one of the best ever at creating pockets back there and making explosive plays. So you're willing to take the sacks, but you're not getting those. You're not getting those. So now he's just taking sacks. And it hasn't looked good.
I was reading a comment. Sorry there. I was muted. Yeah, no, I think that, and I've said this before, I've said this on the show, that I didn't have much of the concrete evidence that it would be this bad. I was not like trying to be Nostradamus and telling you that this was going to be this terrible. I just wasn't a fan of the move. However, you were hearing from a lot of national coverage and insiders and analysts alike saying that this was basically the iceberg in the distance. And I just felt it was going to be a lot sooner rather than later. I didn't realize it was going to be just direct sink to the bottom of the ocean. As we are doing now. There's a lot of comments coming through. I have to read them before I click on them. So give me a second while I work on this. But I want to move on from the Russell Wilson point because we will be talking about it more often than not. But I want to talk about what good came out of Sunday's game because I think a lot of things are starting to look up for the offense and the targets out there outside of QB play. Yeah, Zach. Can you hear me? Zach's here. Okay, the three horsemen of the Broncos offense. You can see the lovely graphic there at the bottom. Courtland Sutton, Greg Dulcich, and Jerry Jeudy. I think that we saw really great things out of the three of these key players for the Broncos on the offense. Although they were dealing with what I would say is questionable QB play, they were able to get some done. Production has been good. Wide open targets being missed outside of that. Joey, what did you think about that reaction clip from Courtland Sutton? Do you think he was upset with being missed in general? Was that just the exhaustion of a long season? But what did you see out of Courtland Sutton on Sunday that you liked? And then we'll get on to the other fun news.
I think Courtland Sutton's a pretty good receiver, right? I do. I do. And I do think, Bree, that a lot of that, it was both. Both are a factor. He's mad that Russell Wilson isn't just rolling out, taking the ball, running, making a safe pass, and yet he's chucking it down the field on that throw. And then it's also a lot to do with that it's been all season. It's both. Both are answered there. I think that, just through my experiences, those moments of frustration, it's both usually. It's not just one or the other. I don't think if that was the first time Russell Wilson would have done that, you would have seen Courtland Sutton throw his hands up because you trust your quarterback. If you trust your quarterback, you're sitting there saying, oh, I'm just going to trust him to make this throw. You know what I mean? But it was clear that Courtland Sutton didn't, and he's like, what the hell are we doing? Which is why it's the prior experiences as well. The three horsemen, though, I have hope for especially Jeudy and Dulcich because I think they fit the timeline of even a team past this one of these guys could be good for the Broncos' future. I've been really excited about the way the Broncos have used Jeudy. I think he's found his way in the NFL. He looks explosive after the catch. He looks like the route runner. His hands have been solid. I have a lot of hope for Jerry Jeudy. And then also Greg Dulcich, who's a rookie tight end. Bree, he's your favorite. We've talked about him so many times on this podcast and just, having to overcome the injury at the beginning of the season, getting a really late start in the season at a position that typically does not perform well early, yet he's performed well early. So shout out to Greg Dulcich on that. I'm excited about those two in particular. And yeah, it's nice to see Courtland Sutton have a good showing.
Both of you helped me. Sorry, go ahead, Zach. I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm finally back now. I was having some problems with
some
music because I was not some computer issues, but some StreamYard issues. Well, I was here's what I was getting ready, because when I asked you guys that question, do you think this was Russell Wilson's low moment? I was setting up Russell Wilson's low point of the season.
That's called an interception.
That's Bobby Wagner.
That's not what he wanted to cook.
That was oh my god! I can't believe we've gotten to a point where Patrick Starr is roasting us on TV.
This is a new low, man. This is bad.
It's terrible. What are we like? These I can't remember a worse like little 3 days if you're a Broncos fan. These little like this is atrocious, man.
Yeah,
What in the world?
And then the three horsemen look really promising. That's the positive end. The Patrick Starr thing's a nightmare, but Greg Dulcich, yes, is absolutely the truth. I'll pull up per game stats here in a second and give people an update on where his pace is at. Jerry Jeudy looks like a legit number one wide receiver to me. I don't think he's, he's up to, I was telling Bree on her show today, on the season now, I'm not even using the post-Jaguars game qualifier. On the season now, he's in the 64th percentile against zone, and he's still number one against man. And now he's number one against man by a whole yard again. Christian Watson is second, and Christian Watson's been extremely explosive. So, again, just highlighting how good Jeudy has been. That's against zone coverage, he's better than 2/3 of the receivers in the league, starting receivers in the league. And against man, he's the best. That is a top 15, 20 receiver in the league to me. I think he's got a while to really like solidify his placement there. But I think Jeudy is getting to the point where if he's your number one receiver, you can be okay with that. I think he's an awesome number two, and you'd rather him be your number two. But I think he can be your number one. It's like in the NBA when you have a star. I'm trying to think of a good comparison. Feel free to interrupt me if y'all think of one. But one of those stars where it's like, if he's your number two, you are a championship contender. But if he's your number one, you're probably just like a good playoff team. And I think that's
a great representation of Aaron Gordon and what he's been doing for the Nuggets. I think that you hit it right out of the park. You don't want him being your number one, but dang it, if he's not able to be a number two henchman out there doing crazy dunks. Watching the Nuggets is the only thing that keeps me sane as a Denver Broncos fan. So shout out to Aaron Gordon and the Nuggets for Mile High Basketball. But it's a great representation of that. And I want to thank you both for changing the narrative, at least inside my own brain, because for a long time, that upslope, that uphill battle to try and understand Jerry Jeudy as a player, you guys have also been able to enlighten me to the fact that he is making waves, improving there. I am excited to see what he's doing. And I was able to forgive a ugly drop because there was a great play afterwards. So learning from mistakes, progressing, there will always be those issues. He doesn't have to be perfect. He just has to be what he's doing right now. And I think that it shows growth. I feel good about it. There's a lot of things though that weren't too great from that. Greg Dulcich having a garbage time TD made it all better. It didn't. It really didn't. There was a near fumble that really made me nervous, and I had missed it and come back to see that. So yes, Joey.
My grandma turned the TV off before I was even able to see the Greg Dulcich touchdown. Unfortunately, there were too many people mad on Christmas for that game to continue in the family Christmas gathering. So the game had to turn off. I didn't even watch it. I watched some highlights afterwards. That was painful. Skipped to about 2 minutes left and saw that touchdown.
So.
Go ahead.
Greg Dulcich on a 17-game pace to be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th most all time in terms of yards. So he ranks pretty well in terms of per game. I'll just do this. He would rank in terms of receiving yards per game. He'd rank about 10th all time. And in terms of receptions per game, about 15th or so among rookie tight ends, which I think is really impressive. You've got to consider, again, mid-round draft pick, no offseason prep time, and in an offense that is going to deflate your offensive production. So the fact he even, I think, is in the conversation with some of the better rookie tight end seasons we've seen is really promising. I'm excited to see more of him. I hope we get to see him with a good quarterback. I hope we get to see Jeudy with a good quarterback, and I hope we get to see it in Denver.
Yeah, because there's a little talk about trade that's making me nervous. Let's talk. I know that wouldn't happen right now, but I just don't want to. I don't want to field those questions right now. I keep trying to pull Frankie's question, and the chat's going crazy. Sorry, guys. Frankie Abbott from Frankie's Film says, "Can we talk about Baron Browning not looking like he's ready for a 3-down role?"
This is true. This is very true, Frankie. Yes. And this was kind of, so I'm not out on Baron Browning. I want to preface it with that. But he is not yet like a every down outside linebacker that can set an edge consistently. And not all the time is it like that he's not in strong enough or something. I do think he can improve there. A lot of the time, it's that he's like having a mental lapse or something like that, which is expected for a player that has been moved around. And like this guy was a rookie last year, starting at inside linebacker, and now he's at edge. It pretty much like no Drew Lock type stuff, but he is pretty much a rookie at his position. And like, so you're going to see the mental lapses. And I think that was part of it, is like, he just has to gain experience. I'm not out on him at all for the future. And I'm glad he is getting these snaps now, especially that the Broncos season is over. And hopefully this is getting him experience, especially going in the next season where he will definitely be at the same position. If he's not, there is something wrong with the Broncos. But right now, no, not a 3-down player at the edge position for sure. Needs to get some of that offseason peanut butter and a little more experience, I would say.
I'm starting to be a little less in love with the Bradley Chubb trade. I think we've got spam comments. Let's go. We've made
Have a
it.
good time. Find your lunch.
But I don't know. I'm just questioning the Bradley Chubb trade a little more now. I think at that point in time, it was the right thing to do because you weren't going to be able to bring him back for next season and everything. It was the best you could have gotten out of it at that juncture. But it makes me just rethink the Randy Gregory signing and just all this stuff, because now edge is, maybe the second most important position in the sport outside quarterback. I think a lot of people would say it is. And the Broncos went from having maybe the best edge rushing room in the league, the best pass rush in the league, to it being a need this coming offseason. And maybe not in the starting capacity, but definitely you need a premium depth option you can trust, I think, with Randy Gregory's injury history, with Baron Browning's injury history, and Baron Browning also maybe not ready for a full 3-down role. It's a bummer. You've lost Von Miller, you've lost Bradley Chubb, and you've lost, maybe not lost yet, but you've potentially lost Draymond Jones. And that's 3 guys who are in the top 20 in the NFL in pass rush wins. Like, that's 3 elite pass rushers. You've got 96 starters in those, or wait, you've got more than that, 96 plus 32, 128. You've got 128 starters in the positions of Draymond Jones, Von Miller, and Bradley Chubb over this season, and all 3 of those guys are in the 85th percentile, and you lost all of them potentially. That is going to really damage you. I can't wrap my head around the strategy fully, and I know the draft picks are valuable, and I get it was the right thing at that time. Personally, I don't believe the Broncos are going to find a player better than Bradley Chubb at pick 23.
Joey, question for you. Paul seems like a new viewer to me. I'm not familiar with your name. If you're new here, subscribe, if you like what's going on here. We want to feature you on the show, though, because Edge might be in round 1, says Paul over on YouTube. If you want to join the conversation, search for us, YouTube, Mile High Sports, Facebook too. Join the comments. But Joey, this question is to you. What do you think about Edge in the first round?
Yeah, you know what? Frankie and I follow us every single Thursday as we do a draft show here at Let's Talk Broncos. I've been looking at a lot of these mock drafts and the way people have it projected and stuff like that. I've done my own evaluations and I have my own take on where players should be evaluated. But, some of these mock drafts you see, these people are sourced. And that's why it gives you an outcome of what could be realistic, And a lot of the scenarios are where the Broncos are going to end up picking, in the late 20 area a little bit. It's very possible that the best 6 players are defensive players. The best 7 players are defensive players, which is not a great outcome for the Broncos, who desperately need offense. Desperately. And we're talking from almost any position, which is why me personally, I would be a huge fan of trading back and picking up more day 2 picks. That's where the value is in this draft class, guys. It really is. I'm always going to be a massive fan of trading back, especially if you're late in that first round. That's where you should be trading back most of the time. The issue is going to lie where I think a lot of people are going to be looking at it the same way. A lot of teams are going to be looking at it the same way I am, where they think that they're going to be able to get similar value in the second round as they are late in the first. So hopefully the Broncos are able to get a trade back. But yeah, edge is a possibility if they were to stay at their current pick. I do think that.
I really love this comment from Indy. It said the late first round could be anything. It could even be a Bradley Chubb, and I couldn't keep a straight face. Indy, how right you are. Zach, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I love it. I love this comment so much because I think it's kind of how I feel. And I have to argue
about this.
It's just like,
but you both
isn't the goal for your late for like 70% of first round picks in the 20s don't end up being the player Bradley Chubb was this
year. Totally. The issue is okay, continue. I'll answer it.
When the Broncos got to where they were at this trade deadline, if you just put this trade deadline in a vacuum, I think trading him for a first-round pick is the right call. Because you're not bringing him back next season, yada, yada, yada. But I just think if you go back further, maybe it's to the Von Miller trade, maybe it's just to the Randy Gregory signing, and just reallocate your resources a little differently. So you're not in the position where your hands are kind of tied and you've got to get the most you can out of the Bradley Chubb situation. I think that would have been better. I think the Broncos would be better off now if they signed Bradley Chubb if they bought low on Bradley Chubb this past offseason, banked on the player, and locked him up instead of signing Randy Gregory. Like if they signed Bradley Chubb to that Randy Gregory contract, I think they would be better off today than they are now.
The issue, okay, so I have to respond to 2 things. So the last thing you said is, I totally agree. Looking at it now, that would have been the correct decision. The issue is going into this offseason, Bradley Chubb was coming off not a very impressive season. So I don't think the Broncos were going to want to offer him a big contract because it was a high risk at the time. Now he's shown us a lot more consistency throughout this season. We always knew the player he was. And now it's ironic because they did sign Randy Gregory, who has been off the field a ton. But it seemed like at the time, Bradley Chubb was. And it not just off the field, but the injuries then affected his play when he was on the field, was something I noted. The other point is I don't think the Broncos will be drafting a player. Now, there's a possibility, right? Like, who was it who said that the comment about drafting a player late in the 20s that could possibly be a Bradley Chubb? Okay, perfect. Yes. I totally agree with you, but I don't know if that's what it's about, because to me, it's like, are we rebuilding or are we not? Because at the end of the day, it's like,
it's true.
Was Bradley Chubb worth that contract during a massive rebuild? Like, if you're a win now team, that makes sense. Pay that guy that money. I don't know if I'm looking at the Broncos right now as a win now team. I would rather have the draft picks the same way I'm going to say that about Russell Wilson and a bunch of players. I want to rebuild this roster. I want to make it something completely different. So I would have made that trade. And yeah, that's just kind of where I stand right now.
That's fair. For me, what frustrates me, I think, is the incongruency with the Draymond Jones thing and the Bradley Chubb thing. Because part of the rationale for Bradley Chubb getting traded for me was, okay, well, you're not keeping both Draymond Jones and Bradley Chubb. So if one of them's walking out the door, let's get a first for him. And that I understand that logic. Why are you letting Draymond Jones walk out the door for nothing? And right now, that's the way it feels like it's going. I hate to be to me, when I looked at it through my lens, and I've been saying it on this show, I'm like, Bradley, don't worry, everybody. Draymond Jones will be back for 2023 because it did not make sense to me why you wouldn't bring him back, especially following the Bradley Chubb trade. Now, I kind of feel like if I had to bet my life on it, I think I'd bet that Draymond Jones is gone. And
that makes me so sad, though.
I'm upset by it because we saw exactly what we thought was going to happen. And Frankie alluded to it earlier. I'm too lazy to go grab the comment, but the locker room went quickly into dissension with that move, just as though I was worried about it. Maybe is it in relation to, is it directly correlated to? No, but the timing matches up. So that's frustrating there. And the only reason I agreed to it is because you both made such tremendous points that if they're going to keep Draymond Jones, then it doesn't make any sense paying Bradley Chubb that type of money. Well, guess what? We probably don't get either.
Well, that makes me so sad, specifically because my jersey curse is real. Even throwing out the idea that I would like to buy a Draymond Jones jersey if he re-signed, has him gone possibly. That makes me extremely sad. I love Draymond Jones. Even a little biased for Draymond. I've loved Draymond's game for a long time. So yeah, that's just that's disappointing.
Joey's getting choked up.
Even thinking about it.
As Christopher commented here too, the defensive line looked terrible this week too with Draymond Jones out of the lineup. I'm scared for what the defensive front looks like without Draymond Jones. Not that I think it'll be terrible next season, but I think in 8-9 game span, you could have gone from having one of the truly special units in the league. The Broncos pass rush, I think, was one of the truly game-changing units in the league, and one of the few game-changing units on defense in the entire league. And it went from that to being so terrible, or not so terrible, but maybe just mid. And that breaks my heart because the one thing I really enjoyed about this Broncos team was that pass rush.
That is very sad.
I'm depressed. I skipped over a part because I wanted to get to all these comments. Please continue to send them through. We'll get to them if I deem that we have the time to do so. But I want to just mention Alex Singleton because he's been absolutely impressive. And Alex Singleton, more like Alex 2010. It should have been double to. Anyways, Zach.
We had 20 tackles. I was stumped on this one because it's tough. I was going to be Alex single ton of tackles or something like that, but the single and the ton makes it just not work because they're conflicting kind of ideas. But yeah, Alex Singleton's been the man. I just want to eat some crow really quick on this. Oh my God, was I wrong on Alex Singleton? All off season, I'm like, Bo, what are the Broncos doing at inside linebacker? How is this your insurance policy? You've got to do better than this guy. Based on the contract they gave him, he might not even make the roster, which is true. I don't think they were the biggest Alex Singleton believers. And he's been one of their best defensive players. I know there are media members who the Broncos beat crew, whatever you want to call them, all vote, give out certain team awards. And I know there are Broncos beat writers that have voted for Alex Singleton for team MVP this year. I don't think he'll win it. I think it'd go to Surtain, and I can't really fault them. He wouldn't be my pick, but I could see the argument for him being top 5, top 3 or something. It's crazy. He's got the same amount of starts as Josie Jewell, who is second on the team in tackles, and Alex Singleton has 30 more tackles than him or something.
Can I throw something out here? Because
really
they've both been really good. Maybe Jewell's play on Sunday wasn't great, but a lot of the players on the roster wasn't great. Can you talk to a lot of the bullshit that I'm seeing in my replies about Josie Jewell somehow not being deserving of praise? Because I'm not going to answer them, but I think it's absolutely ridiculous that somebody would go there.
That sounds like the same old Josie Jewell story to me. Broncos country has been thinking he's a bad linebacker his whole career when he's been pretty dang solid. I don't think he's I don't think he's a special linebacker like a Fred Warner. I don't think he's elite. I don't even know if he's a Pro Bowl linebacker. I think he's He should make a Pro Bowl
Maybe.
or something. I feel like he's kind of in that. If he made it as like an alternate or something, I feel like that's about right. He's in that realm. He's like a top 8, 9 inside linebacker. I feel I'd have to list him out to see if I really feel strongly about that. But that's the range I think Jules in. And
Interesting.
I wouldn't have put Singleton there, but he's been really good this year. I think they're a certain type of linebacker. All of it's so scheme dependent in the NFL, but I think in this Fangio scheme, they are really good linebackers.
Can you tell me what exactly happened on that Alex Singleton hit? Was that drawn up that way? How did he come out of nowhere and absolutely did he drill Baker? Is that the almost sack that I thought happened?
Oh, the QB hit. By the way, Alex Singleton had half of the Broncos QB hits in this game. They only touched the quarterback twice all game, which is a problem. It goes back to the decline of the pass rush that I was talking about, because this Rams offensive line has been allowing pressures galore all season. So to only get 2 quarterback hits and not a single sack against Baker Mayfield, who also holds the ball a long time. Ugh, bad on all levels. But yeah, Evero, to me, I haven't gotten the film yet, so I haven't gotten to watch it back. But yeah, Evero just kind of loaded up the line. It was a blitz look. Goodness, Baker Mayfield knew he was hot on the play, and so he did a good job getting rid of it. Damari Mathis got beat on the play to allow the touchdown. But Alex Singleton was left free, and he made sure he got a lick on Baker. He didn't know if he was going to get the sack or not, but he made sure to drive his helmet right into his sternum, and good play from Singleton.
It looked great. Y'all, oh yeah, go ahead, Joey.
I want to make a point about Alex Singleton. Zach, you were talking about how some had him in like the team MVP conversation. I don't want to take anything away from Alex Singleton's season this year because it's been tremendous. But I do want to highlight how Evero has done a masterful job utilizing him. That's something that absolutely needs to be pointed out, because I'm not so sure he has the season damn near anywhere else. That's something that needs to be pointed out. He's done such a good job at limiting what he does bad and then making sure he's doing a lot of what he does good. That's something that needs to be pointed out, and it's a massive reason why he's having the season he is. Yeah, I had to point that out.
I love Paul's comment. Paul said, Baker better send the Broncos a fruit basket. Thank you. Yeah.
He might have made millions of dollars off that. Like, no joke. Seriously, it looked like it struck midnight on his Cinderella story in Lambeau. He had the really awesome moment against the Raiders. And then in Lambeau, it was like, whoa, no thank you. And then this Broncos game, like, he's going to get a backup quarterback contract, I bet next year. And I think that was somewhat up in the question before this game. So, yeah, a fruit basket, I think, would be a very, 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 very tiny bite out of what the Broncos might have earned him in that performance.
Great. It's just great. Everything's great here at Let's Talk Broncos. If you're new here and you haven't done so, you need to like the stream. You need to subscribe so that you can catch us. We're live Monday through Saturday. But now, if you're new, you wouldn't know that it's everyone's favorite segment of the night. It's Joey's question of the day.
Can we get some like hype around it? I remember back in the day when you guys used to like, hype it up and stuff. I don't know what ever happened to that.
Zach doesn't care. He's
yeah, I know.
Brought to you by Sodables.
Jeez. All right. My question is, who wins more games next season? Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes, or question mark in the Broncos? Who wins more games next season? Yeah, I want your guys' answer.
I love this question. It came up on the radio show I produced this morning because I think both are kind of like 5-6 win teams. I think a better coaching staff probably helps the Broncos out a little bit. But despite them having 5 extra games on CU, I think they probably win right about the same amount. That said, I'll bet on the Broncos. They've got a lot more opportunities to win games. But it's tough. It's real tough. Like, CU's schedule is brutal. They get Oregon, they get UCLA, they get TCU, they get USC, they get Utah. Like those are 5 brutal games right there. And then I think I'm forgetting something like Oregon State's a solid team now. They finished the season ranked.
They have DJ now, DJU.
Yeah, and they got DJU, so that could be interesting. It's just that's very interesting to me. I think they're about 5-6 win team. I think the Broncos probably improved, but not by much. I'll bet on the Broncos.
Everyone in the comments is saying like how it's a fair point. CU has less games than the Broncos do next year, which picking CU makes that even more of a bold.
That's part of it to me. That's part of it. Because to me, CU is like a 500-ish team, and the Broncos are like a 250-ish team.
Yes, but see, Indy says, yeah, do win percentage. Cal says do per capita. Which is hilarious. But
per capita would be funny. Then it's definitely going to be CU.
Per capita is crazy. All right, yeah. Bree, what is your answer? CU?
Stupid.
Per capita.
Okay. I don't think the Broncos break 500 next season without doing something crazy.
Win percentage.
And then I also don't think CU does either, because I don't think it's going to be an overnight change. And I'm tempering my expectations. So I would say the Broncos have a better chance at winning more games, but I think that they're both going to be under 500. Okay.
Bree, I have to give my opinion on this one real quick. I know it's Joey's question of the day. I'm answering also Joey's question of the day. I would ask for hype, but I won't do it this time around. I think that CU has done a great job in the transfer portal, which is a big part of this. Bree Mace just left the podcast. I think that's a big part of this, right? You need players in that could go. I think Deion's done a great job of putting a staff together. Sean Kelly out of Kent State last year is now their OC. He was the head coach at Kent State, and they had a freaking fantastic track record as an offensive team last year. Big thing that stands out, got a big tight end, got a ton of receivers this next year, got 2 tackles through the transfer portal. I think that they're going to be pretty impressive. Now, I also agree. I don't think it's an overnight thing. They were a 1-win program last year. It's going to take a little bit of time. But I will say with Shedeur Sanders, who I really think a lot of for a college quarterback, I won't lie to you guys, I think a lot of him. Travis Hunter, the tight end they just got yesterday. They have some transfers that will come in and produce right away. I think that it's going to be a big improvement from what they saw last year. And then also I want to say I'm going to be writing a lot about CU, whether it's through Mile High Sports or just through my own thing. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be something I'm doing. I love it. I love college football. That is my favorite thing, even more than the NFL, truthfully. So everyone, make sure you're looking for that.
What is happening? Oh my goodness. All right. Well, guys, that'll be the end of the show. But I want everyone to talk about where everyone can find their stuff. Zach.
Yeah, find me over at Mile High Sports. Got tons of articles over there. That noise was the Chargers just scoring a touchdown, so everyone knows they've got a 7-0 lead as they head towards the playoffs. I'm going to start diving into draft stuff too, so check that out. Please rate the show. Give us a like. All that stuff gives us stupid amounts of help trying to grow this thing, and it takes very minimal effort. So that'd mean
if you like us, do it.
Yeah. But Paul, thanks for joining the show. You're the man. And yeah, Zach at Zach_Seegers on Twitter. My pinned tweet will help you convince everyone that Russell Wilson's cuttable.
Joey.
Okay, everyone. Follow me at JR Drafts. Like I said, keep an eye out for writing, whether it's through Mile Sports or at JR Drafts. You're going to be able to find it there. And then we really want YouTube subscribers. I recently found out that those are more valuable than Twitter views. So everybody go subscribe on YouTube immediately. If you like us whatsoever, go to the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube or the Mile High Sports YouTube. And do something there. We need subscribers. We need views. If you could transfer your views to the YouTube, that would be fantastic to me. But yeah, everyone, that's where you can find my work.
I'm not asking. I'm demanding. If you're watching over on Twitter, quit your freeloading bullshit and go subscribe over
Thanks,
on
Paul.
Let's Talk Broncos on YouTube, Facebook. Paul, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm going to scream like Joey was into his microphone because now I can't hear anything. Follow me over on Twitter, BreeMaces303. You can watch me on the Fan Cave, 1 to 2 p.m. for Mile High Sports Radio every single day here with the Let's Talk Broncos crew. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. We appreciate you. Good night, Broncos country. Talk to you tomorrow.
Who said beggars can't be